we gathered the whole team of Youth for Christ Romania to decide if we would buy Puerto Elo or not. It was big decisions. So we gathered the staff, the board, and we gathered people to help us pray, help us worship. And then we had three different preachers. And as they started to speak, they all had the same verses in mind. And it was so interesting, so I will read them to you. This is in Joshua 1, verse 1 to 8.
After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go.
These verses was such an encouragement for us. And as we continue to speak and discuss and pray about it, a week after we finally decided to go and purchase the building. Now, it was 4 years ago, and the adventure was way more complicated than what I thought. So last summer I thought, hey, let's go back to these verses again. Let's go back to the story. Maybe God wanted to tell us something. Maybe I need to reread again. So I started to look at the life of Joshua, and it was fascinating what I've learned through this life. And this is what I want to share this morning. But just before I do it, I want just to share the context of the whole Joshua's story. So before Joshua, we had the big leader, Moses. Right? We know the story. Moses had a crazy life to get the people of Israel out of Egypt. They were slaves, and to bring them to the promised land. So the people of Israel cry out to God. They cry for help. God sent them Moses, and then Moses bring them out in the desert, and then he's very close to the promised land. And this is where it gets interesting. God is willing to give what the people have waited for years, and when they have to enter it, they're afraid. And they say, no, we will not go into the land. So God brings them back to the wilderness. Now, God sent many people to the wilderness, and God, when He does this is to change us, all right? So when God wanted to have a leader like Moses, He put him in the best family, in the king's family. He had the best teachers of the world. He has all the knowledge. And Moses became a young man full of knowledge, all right? But you know what much knowledge does? It gives you a lot of pride. And Moses, full of pride, kills a man. Now this is when the story starts. And we see where Moses is. And God sent him to the wilderness 40 years. And this is where God changed the character of Moses. And only after the wilderness, Moses is ready to serve God and do what he has to do. So the wilderness is the place where God changes us. Before Jesus entered ministry, Jesus stayed in the wilderness 40 days. All right, this is a place of transformation. And the tragedy of the first generation is that they were born slaves, but they are not. They were promised the promised land, but they died in the wilderness. Second generation is born in the wilderness. Now you think this generation will go into the promise, and then they do so, but they do not conquer the whole promised land. And now we're waiting, we're expecting the third generation. You think, okay, God has promised something. And finally, the third generation, with the whole blessing, will be the victorious one. And this is where the real tragedy starts. And you can read with me in Judges 2, verse 8 to 13.
Joshua son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. After that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. They forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors who had brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of the peoples around them. They aroused the Lord's anger because they forsook him and served Baal and the Ashtoreths.
This is the tragedy. This is the real tragedy. The third generation, they were not born into slavery. They were not born into the desert. They were born into the promised land. They had everything. They had everything. And they let what is the most important. They go away out of God. They let God out of the picture. They say, no, we don't want God. We don't want you. We take the blessing, but we don't want you. Third generation. You see, this touched me a lot because my father was not born into a Christian family. My father got Christian and then he became a pastor. I feel he's the first generation. I'm the second generation. I can go further than my father because of what he did, all right? I was protected as a kid. I've heard about the gospel since I was a young guy. And then I feel the second generation. We can go further. And now I have four boys. And I read this text. What about if my third generation go far away out of God's will? And so I had to look in the Word. I had to find out what did this generation, second generation, did wrong, so that the generation 3 went away. What went wrong? 3 things I've learned. First is that Moses, when he put Joshua into authority, he was ready. Moses was ready, Joshua was ready, and the people was ready. Let's read it.
Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses.
You have to understand something. Moses prepared Joshua his whole life. When Moses sent the 12 spies into the promised land, Joshua was part of it. When Moses was on the mountain and praying, and you know the story, when he had the hands lifted up, the people was winning. When he was down, the people was losing. This is a great teaching about prayer, but still you have to watch that the people had to fight. And who was leading the people into fight? Joshua. When Moses going to the mountain and where God will receive the 10 commandments, Moses doesn't take with him Aaron, his brother. Moses doesn't take anybody actually with him. Only his secretary, Joshua. You see, all his life, Moses has taken a young man with him to prepare him for what is next. And when Moses died, he brings this young man, Joshua, he brings the people, and he said, no, you guys, you will listen to him. Moses have been excellent to prepare the next generation. Now you have Moses, you have Joshua, and who do you have next? Who do you have next? Look in your Bible. Nobody. Joshua, the second generation, did very bad preparing the next generation. They did not prepare leaders ready to lead the people in the will of God. First observation, prepare the next leaders. Second observation, we can see at the beginning of Joshua's life a promise from God, very powerful one.
I will give you every place where you set your foot as I promised Moses. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go.
So God is saying to Joshua and to the people, I give you the whole land. Just obey. Alright, just listen to me, guys. Just obey. And look at the end of the life of Joshua what God is saying. Judges 2, verse 1 to 3.
The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you out of Egypt and led you into the land I swore to give to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this?
God is so strong. God is so strong. He said, you did not listen to me. You did not obey. Well, if I was God, I would have said, well, you did okay. All right, you did not conquer the whole country, but you did okay. But God is very strong. He said, no, you disobeyed to me. Totally. And I thought about it. I said, why is God so strong? Why doesn't God acknowledge that they did some work? And then I thought if I was cheating my wife, but only a few times. If I would have been faithful to my wife 98% of the time, would I have really been faithful to my wife? If you send firefighters to a forest and they take away, they take care only of 80% of the fire, what do you think will happen? Fire will still continue. We will not be able to say, hey, great job guys. No, we say, what did you do? And this is what God said to the people, you did not obey to me. First observation, prepare the transition to the next generation. Second observation, obey fully to what God is telling you. And now we're going to look for the third observation. We're going to look of what happened. Why did the people of God stop to fight? So Joshua 18 verse 2 to 3.
But there were still 7 Israelite tribes who had not yet received their inheritance. So Joshua said to the Israelites, how will you wait before you begin to take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you?
I like Joshua. I like when you have 12 spies and 10 are saying it's not possible. I like Joshua is saying, well, if God wants, we will do it. It's possible. I like Joshua because in this text, the people doesn't want to fight anymore. And Joshua is like, we have to do it. I like when Joshua takes the time to speak up. But few chapters after, so the people start to fight. And what's happening next? Judges 1 verse 18 to 33.
They took possession of the hill country, but they were unable to drive the people from the plains because they had chariots fitted with iron.
This is where everything starts to end. People start to fight, and it's tough. It's very tough. And they stop. They say, well, it's too hard for us. And I hate this. I don't like this. You know why? Did God promise that He will be with them until it's too hard? Did God say, I will be with you, but if it's too hard, you can stop, you can have a break? No, God said, I will be with you. And so it was the time for Joshua to say, hey guys, God had promised us something. Let's go and pray and we'll find a solution. With God's help, we will have the victory. But Joshua is quiet. Sometimes we sin because we speak when we should be quiet. But sometimes we sin because we're quiet when we should speak. And that day, Joshua should have spoken. That day, the people who said it's too hard should have been quiet. They had to fight. God had promised the victory. Even if it's tough. God didn't say it would be easy. I know, I understand it's tough. But if God said it, we will have the victory. Let's push until we have it. Because then the tragedy starts. Then this tribe doesn't go to the end. And what will happen? So they had 7 tribes who didn't fully conquer the country. You see the one after the other one. They see the first one stop. And let's read.
The Benjamites, however, did not drive out the Jebusites.
Second one stop. Third one.
But Manasseh did not drive out the people of Bet, nor did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer. Neither did Zebulun drive out the Canaanites living in Kitron or Nahalol, nor did Asher drive out those living in Akko or Sidon, neither did Naphtali drive out those living in Beth Shamesh or Beth Anat.
Third one stop, fourth one stop, fifth stop, sixth stop, seventh stop, they all stop. You see, when the church, sometimes the church say, hey, maybe this is too hard. The other churches are watching. And then they have excuses. Oh, this church didn't do it, so we should do it too. And the whole kingdom starts to crumble. And the third generation doesn't know who is God. So I know this is tough, this one. And but I look at my boys. I have 4 boys. And I want the third generation to fully know who is God, to fully follow God. And so I need to learn these lessons. I need to know what I need to do. First one, prepare the transition. Second one, obey fully to the Lord. Third one, don't quit when it's too hard. And life is tough. Christian life is tough. I know, I got it. It's complicated. Believe me, I try to raise €1 million for this center. Believe me, it's not easy. Sometimes I want to quit. Well, I just think of the third generation. And I said, let's do it again. Let's fight for the third generation. Follow Jesus. So God, I thank you because you're with us and you promise us victory. Help us prepare the next generation. Help us obey to you fully. And help us persevere even when it's tough. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.